The Switch 2 is so expensive. It's $500. Where am I supposed to find that money? I guess I could sell some stuff to save up for the Switch. But what can I sell? Wait a second. Look. I mean, it is pretty old. I don't know how much money I'm going to get for this. But might as well see. Oh my god! This old thing is worth so much! I gotta sell it immediately!
Wait!
Who is that?
That doesn't matter. Don't sell it right now.
Why should I not sell it?
There's still a lot of value in that system.
Come on, how much could it offer? I already beat most of the games I already own, and there's a lot of money on eBay for it. Why not just sell it and get the brand new console?
Okay, even if you sell it at that price, the games for the Nintendo Switch 2 will bankrupt you either way.
I guess you're kinda right. Nintendo is being pretty greedy with the Switch 2 games. But still, no new games are being made for this. How much fun can I really have with it?
Trust me, your 3DS will get a lot more fun after you homebrew it.
Homebrewing? What's that?
You don't know what homebrewing is? Let me show you. To start this video, we need to homebrew 3DS. Since my 3DS is already homebrewed, I'm borrowing my friend's 2DS to make this video possible. As you can tell by the missing rubber on the circle pad as well as the scratches all over the console, this is not in very good condition, but hopefully that doesn't affect this performance. This 2DS is also missing a stylus, which I can't really blame him, a bunch of kids probably lost this either way. A while back, I bought a pack of DSi XL styluses for my own console. I wonder if it'll fit here. Huh, it looks like it fits perfectly. Well, I guess I'll give him it. It'll be my gift to him. I wonder what game he has in here. Huh, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D. Pretty good game. Now, let's turn on the console. Before we mod the console, I think we should give ourselves a little peek at what he's done on this 2DS. First, let's check out his Miis. Huh, he doesn't have a lot of Miis, but for the ones he does, they're pretty interesting. Alright, let's check out what games he has now. Wow, he actually has a lot of games. Spent a lot of money on the eShop. I don't know if people actually use this feature, but let's check it out. Wow, this drawing's pretty good. I wonder what his other game notes look like. Huh. Fascinating. We should check out the Street Pass as well. It was one of the biggest features of the 3DS. Oh look, a new game. I think we should download it for him. Huh, I guess not. Look, his most recent Street Pass was me, and I guess I was playing Puyo Puyo at the time. Let's make myself a VIP. Well, I guess that's not happening. Wow, he Street Passed a lot of people over the years. Alright, I think that's enough screwing around. Now, let's prepare the console for homebrewing. For this console, I'm using a 32GB SD card. However, if you want the bare minimum, 4GB is technically the bare minimum, but I would suggest at least an SD card over 16GB. Also, I wouldn't really get an SD card over 128GB because a bigger storage can actually lead to glitches, so I wouldn't really recommend it. For this video, I'm using the homebrewing guide shown at 3ds.hacks.guide. They have the most up-to-date methods and I really recommend it. For this video, I'm using the MSET9 method, which is the one that the website actually suggests for this console. Alright, I finished the initial preparation of the SD card. Now the 2DS is making some home menu management information for it. Alright, now the next thing is head over to Mii Maker to make some extra data. Alright, looks like that finished. Alright, now we gotta head over to the system settings. Don't worry, even though this message looks scary, it's actually necessary for the hack. Alright, with the corrupted data reset, we can turn off the console and put the SD card back into our computer. Alright, the program is saying our SD card is ready, so we can move forward. Alright, now we head back to system settings. This time we go over to the extra data section. Alright, this might seem a little odd, but from this screen we have to remove the SD card and put it back into our computer without touching anything on the console. Alright, back on the computer, we have to inject the MSET9 file onto our SD card, then reinsert it into... Alright, looks like it worked. Now, from this screen, we will install the custom firmware onto our 2DS. Alright, looks like it's successful, and now we're in Luma 3DS, which is the custom firmware for the 3DS. Now, we gotta put some extra files onto our SD card to put in the homebrew apps. For this, we have to enter this little thing called God Mode 9, which is where we'll actually install the apps as well as dump the NAND. Alright, as indicated by the 2DS, our setup is complete, and now our 2DS is officially homebrewed. As you can see, new software has been added, which is all the homebrew apps. If you're interested in homebrewing your 3DS yourself, which I highly recommend, you can head over to 3ds.hacks.guide to homebrew your own 3DS as well. To homebrew your 3DS, I really only trust this website. I know there are video guides out there, but those can get easily outdated, and if you want the most up-to-date information, head over to this website to see what's been patched, what's not been patched, as well as any errors you encounter. Now, what can you do with a homebrewed 3DS? A lot of things, of course. I think one of the major reasons why people start homebrewing their 3DSs nowadays is because of Pretendo. As many of you guys know, Nintendo shut down their online service for the Wii U and 3DS on April 8th, 2024. However, that wasn't the end of online for these consoles. This is Pretendo. It is a fan-made recreation of Nintendo Network and essentially brings back the online functionality for both the 3DS and the Wii U. You may remember me talking about this in my Wii U video. The same service is also used for the 3DS to bring back its online functionality. A lot of these games can still be played online to this day with Pretendo, whether it's with strangers or friends. It's awesome to see so many people dedicated to keeping the online functionality alive. Also, I mentioned in the Wii U video that you can access Pretendo by using a DNS exploit. However, for the 3DS, you absolutely require the homebrewed 3DS and have no other choice. So, I think this is one of the biggest reasons why people started homebrewing the 3DSs, especially after the server shut down. Similar to the Wii U, along with bringing back its online service, you can also access Miiverse again with their service called Juxtaposition. Miiverse was Nintendo's attempt at a social media, meant for users of the Wii U and 3DS. It unfortunately shut down on November 7th, 2017 and was never brought over to the Nintendo Switch. It's a shame, to be honest. There was a lot of quality posts on there. Either way, I think it's cool bringing back a core component of the Nintendo 3DS. It's nice to just scroll on there and see everyone's posts. Pretendo is still not fully done as it still has many more games and features to work on. However, progress is steadily being made. I highly recommend checking them out for the awesome work. Speaking of bringing back features, remember Street Pass? Street Pass was a 3DS feature where you could sort of exchange information with other 3DSs that it detects when you're outside just by walking by them. When you're done collecting Street Passes, you can check your 3DS and see all the other people's Miis that you Street Pass. There are also minigames you can play in the Mii Plaza based on the Miis you Street Passed, like Find Me. Additionally, in some games, Street Pass was used to unlock features and bonuses. For example, in Tomodachi Life, with Street Pass you could have received exclusive outfits, accessories, and new explorers. It was a super neat feature and was one of the best features of the 3DS just because of how creative it was. However, with the release of the Nintendo Switch, as well as just the aging of the 3DS, no one really carries around the 3DS anymore, resulting in Street Passes becoming essentially a dead feature. However, with Homebrew, we can fix that. This is NetPass, which aims to fix that problem of the dead Street Pass feature. Essentially, instead of having to link with 3DSs locally, it connects to the internet and gathers Street Passes that way. Although it does get rid of the charm of Street Pass a little bit as you don't really have to quote-unquote earn these Street Passes anymore, having that access to easy Street Passes helps bring back more life to the 3DS. You can now basically play any minigame on the Mii Plaza with no problem as you won't have a shortage of Miis. I'm not sure exactly why I'm getting such a low amount of Street Passes on this 2DS, but still, you can see that we gathered 3 already. That's probably 3 more than you will just by walking out into the city. I'm not exactly sure why I only gathered 3 Street Passes on the 2DS, however, on my 3DS XL, I'm able to gather 10 Street Passes easily, so just trust me on it that NetPass actually works really well. So please just trust me, try it with your own console, maybe NetPass will have more luck on there. Despite the low number of Street Passes on the 2DS, you can see a lot more life was brought into it with NetPass. Also, with homebrewing your 3DS, you can unlock custom themes. Yeah, before the Nintendo Switch went full corporate with the lack of themes, Nintendo actually pushed out a lot of themes for the 3DS, which looked really nice. With these themes, you can see a very big difference from the past era of Nintendo and the current era of Nintendo. However, with a homebrewed 3DS, instead of having to only use themes that came from Nintendo, you can actually put on some cool custom themes onto your 3DS to liven it up. These are some of my favorites. They look really awesome on my 3DS. I'll leave a link to the themes website in the description, and I hope you guys check it out as well, because there are a lot of cool themes on there. The next feature is also pretty cool. You may be familiar with the Wii U's backwards compatibility with the Wii, like how I mentioned in my Wii U video. However, the 3DS doesn't follow this exactly. When you put in a DS game, you don't get put into any menu like the DSi menu, and instead you go straight inside the DS game. So you might be thinking that you can't really use DSi homebrews on the 3DS. However, this is not the case. Twilight menu, the mod menu for the DSi, is also present on the 3DS. This means that you can access all the DSi homebrews that you want as well as their games. Although Nintendo didn't intend for the DSi menu to be present on the 3DS, the DSi homebrew scene still made it onto it. It's really convenient as you're able to access all your DSi homebrews easily as well as playing your games. Thanks to Twilight menu, we can access all of the DSi homebrews. Another really useful thing that homebrewing does is that it allows you to easily capture gameplay on your computer. Since the 3DS is a portable console with no option to plug into HDMI, game recordings were really hard to do. With traditional consoles, you can just plug in a capture card and get it to display on your PC. But for the 3DS, you either have to buy an extremely expensive capture card that will only work for the 3DS, or just use a camera to record your 3DS, which ended up with footage like this.
Hey guys, welcome to my video, and today I'm gonna be playing Water World Gold on my 3DS, so yeah, let's play it now.
However, with NTR CFW and NTR Viewer on the PC or another app like SnickerStream, you can easily turn footage of your 3DS from this to this. It's really convenient to have as it provides a relatively simple way to stream your 3DS for free. Although it might lag time to time in games, if you have a relatively good internet connection, it'll stay mostly stable and you'll get really good quality footage. However, despite this, there are still some drawbacks with this feature. For starters, this app is only capable with a new model 3DS, not the old ones. The old ones don't have powerful enough hardware to run this, so it's impossible. However, for old 3DSs, there is an alternative called HZ mod, which you can technically stream your old 3DS to your PC, however, it is very bad. Also, another drawback of this feature is that you cannot capture any DS game footage, as when the 3DS tries to play a DS game, the 3DS technically boots into DS mode, which disables all 3DS homebrew. However, despite this, if you just want to capture 3DS games, it's not a bad option. Sure, sometimes the quality can be questionable due to a poor internet connection, but what other choice do you really have besides an expensive capture card or this? There are way more capabilities for the 3DS than Homebrew unlocks for it. However, since the possibilities are endless, I can't list them all here. However, here are some of my favorites. Obviously, like any other homebrewed console, emulation can also be done on here. Virtual Console was also pushed onto the 3DS, allowing people to play their old games on the system. The 3DS can play games meant for consoles like the NES, SNES, and Game Boy. However, there are also some strange ones like the PS1, which actually runs surprisingly well on the 3DS. The emulation capabilities on this console is actually really nice. It's very useful for a portable console. But obviously with any emulation video, I do have to put out a disclaimer. I do not condone any piracy, and I believe that you should own every game that you play and emulate. Okay, I think I'm good from the Nintendo Ninjas now. Similar to emulation, you can also dump all of your physical games digitally. Keeping all your games digitally is really helpful with this console because you wouldn't have to bring so many cartridges along with you. And again, another disclaimer, I don't condone piracy. Okay, I think they're off me now. Additionally, you can also install mod packs for your favorite games. I think one of the most well-known ones for the 3DS is CTGP7, which is a mod for Mario Kart 7. It unlocks more tracks, carts, and characters for you to choose from. For example, it added more retro tracks to the game and also added some intriguing tracks. You can also play online with this mod, which I highly recommend because it's really fun playing these new tracks and playing with new characters. Another one of my favorites is the Moonlight streaming app. I explained this in my Wii U video already, but this is an app which allows you to connect your 3DS to your PC and stream your games while using the 3DS as a controller, which lets me do this again. Yeah, I know Fortnite's a dead game, but I gotta do this gag at least once again. There's also just some random funny homebrew apps like this Balldozer one, which is literally just a Balldozer port for the 3DS. Obviously it's not the full game and it's just a remake, but it's still pretty cool to see. Trust me, there's still a lot more homebrew applications which I haven't mentioned yet. I mean, just look at Universal Updater and see all the apps on there. I highly encourage you guys to homebrew your 3DS and see for yourself. So, are you finally convinced to homebrew your 3DS?
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'm gonna go homebrew right now.
One homebrew later.
Wow, thank God that random voice told me to homebrew my 3DS. This is amazing. Wait a second. Huh, look at that. I have a street pass. I didn't use net pass. I wonder who it's from. Let's see. Oh my God. Is that who I think it is? Oh my God. It's Miyamoto. Why is he in California? How did he street pass me? That's crazy. How does he know that? How does he know that? Don't come after me, Nintendo.
Okay. I love you, I do need you, I do love you, I do need you. I love you, I do need you. I love you, I do need you.